Just doing a quick audio check.
Good morning, we hear you. Start.
Thank you.
Meeting.
This meeting is being recorded.
A meeting of the State Interoperable and Emergency Communication Board. Quarterly meeting. I want to welcome you all. Joanne, may we have the roll call?
Morning, everybody. I'll start with Brett Chellis, Chair.
Here.
Mark Balistreri, Designee for New York State Dishes, Acting Commissioner Jackie Bray.
Here.
Tim Morris, Designee for New York State Police.
Here.
David Kizlowski, Designee for New York State Chief Information Officer.
Here.
Chief Jason Sellers, Designee for New York State Division of Military and Naval Affairs. Bob Terry, Designee for New York State Department of Transportation. Todd Murray, Designee for New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services.
Here.
Ryan Greenberg, Designee for New York State Department of Health. Richard Anderson. Brian LaFleur.
Present.
Kimberly Beatty.
I'm here.
Brendan Casey. Michael Volk.
Hi, good morning. Michael Volk from Valhalla, New York, remote. My apologies for not being able to make it in person.
Thank you. Morning, Mike. Alan Turner. Anthony Tripp. Sheriff Figueroa.
Here.
Michael Soretto. We have 9, so we've made quorum.
We have a quorum. Thank you, Joanne. I'd like to go over, well, first off, I guess I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes as distributed. Motion by Sheriff. Second by Lieutenant Morris. Is there any amendments to the minutes as distributed? Hearing none. All those would signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. The minutes are accepted. Next is the motion to adopt the agenda for the meeting as distributed. Any discussion amendments? Do I hear a motion? By the Sheriff. Second by the Lieutenant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Agenda is adopted. Okay. Etiquette and safety. Please have your phones on, as Mike would say, stun. Vibrate so that interrupt the meeting. If you have to take a call, you may do so, but please step outside the room. And should the fire alarm go off, hear an audible alarm, invisible strobe, please exit the room, either of the marked exits. Take a left down the hall the way you came in, out the main doors. Please make sure you're clear of the driveway entrance and the driveway in front of the building. Move to the further into the parking lot so emergency apparatus can access the building. Bathrooms are across the hall here. And a couple rules. Upon acceptance of the meeting agenda, if you're part of the agenda, the guests or persons having relevant knowledge or information may attend and speak as part of meeting. All other guests must be recognized by the chair before addressing the board or participating in discussion. A board member is unable to attend in person or by video conference. His or her designee may attend the meeting and vote on behalf of the member unless they are an appointee not presenting state agency. And I'd like to remind again, if you're on the phone, please announce who you are before speaking. Questions? Good. And this will begin with the standing committee reports. Get caught up here with this thing now. The meeting's going right along. Okay, Alan is unable to make it. I can report for Alan that standards are still in the review and amendment process. Will be going back to the committee probably within the next few weeks for further work. Hope that by the next meeting we'll be further along the process, closer to a version ready for action to present to you. Other than that, there's a few things going on in the 911 thing the committee is watching. A $10 billion grant, federal grant for NG 911 for states is working its way through House committees, presented on the House floor for a vote. And there's also some of the wireless companies have announced 18th April 1 that they are now going to begin providing dispatchable location as part of, and I should say, moving away from legacy call routing to patient-based from hybrid devices on the onset of a 911 call. So that is, and that's ahead of NG 911 core services for many states, including New York. So that will mean an improved location finding, so on, as it's being rolled out. We're already doing it in many of the market areas. It's a good announcement for 911. It's going on last month. We look forward to that. As an added capability for our PSAFs on behalf of the carriers. The SEC put out a for comments and so on that location. They're kind of working their way through the process of how that's going to improve it, what else can be done, how it's going to be presented. All that. That's something to keep an eye on that the committee is. That's all I have for the 911 Advisory Committee. Any questions? Great. Working group has not had a meeting since the last meeting. Documents or so on. Wait for from Jay. Jay, are you on the phone? Have Jay today. I don't have a SafeCom report.
I'm here.
There you are. Hi, Jay.
Good morning. And I apologize for being on the phone, but my dedicated driver chose not to drive up today.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk real quick about SafeCom, if you will. We had a meeting in beginning of June. I'll go over the what I thought were the key issues at the meeting. I don't see Matt Delaney on today, but
That's here, Jay.
can you have him call me after this meeting is over? You should have my cell phone. If not, I will give it to you.
Okay, you copied direct.
Okay, first, there was discussion of voice and data on the COVID sites nationwide and how it was addressed. Different communities did it different ways, and there were as many variations that you can think of. That's how many variations there were, including FRS and GMRS radios. We're coming out with 2 documents, ultimately merged into one, on cyber risks to LMR. The Hatch Act was discussed again, especially as it relates to local application based on an incident that happened here in New York. If anybody's got any questions about that, please ask the director offline. We don't want to embarrass anybody. We spoke to an organization called saferbuildings.org. They presented a very, very nice demonstration on how to make buildings, especially high rises, safer. And we've invited them to become part of the national organization. There's an issue with 4.9. It's being underutilized. If nationally we don't step up the utilization of 4.9, the FCC may try to do to it what they initially did to T-band. 5.9 is being used for short-range signaling. Another issue that's come up is the use of 911 dedicated funds. They're looking to make the regulations regarding the use of those funds more stringent, in fact, mandatory. And last but not least, there was discussion on the Z-axis when using cellular phones. It's not as successful as we would like, but it's being pushed, and hopefully with the further rollout of improved LTE and 5G, the Z-axis will improve. That's what I've got. Thank you, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Jay? Jay, thank you for a good report and all the work you're doing for us.
And again, please have Matthew call me after the meeting.
Will do.
Copy direct. Okay. Just went right by. Thank you.
That's okay, you could have. Would have been a shorter meeting. Morning, everybody. Just going to give you a quick update on the Commute program. I like showing these slides every time just so people get used to know what the different positions are. Under the communications unit, there's 7 ICS positions. Those are the ones that are listed. ITSL is the newest and the latest. That's the IT side of the org chart. It's kind of what it looks like. There's been discussions about where they fall under, and depending what courses you take, sometimes they fall under logistics directly. Sometimes under the service unit. There was talk about bringing communications up to the command line, but there was a lot of pushback on that. But what I tell folks in the training classes, it doesn't matter where we are up here. From here down is kind of where we're at. And I like this slide because on the left side, you got your LMR stuff and shaded in the red, and on the left side, on the right side, you got the blue, more of your IT community. So I think it's a good blend of all the different things. The ITSL is equal to the ComL and probably are going to be responsible mostly for the technical specialist, which could be your vendors. It could be somebody in your county or your agency that specializes in one of those things. So the next 2 charts are just going to be an update on the credentialed personnel in the state and trained personnel. So this is where we are at. We had a ComEx recently, and we had a few people that got credentialed. as a result of that, ComTs, 3 INTDs, 2 INCMs, and 5 ComLs. So there's still some out there, but we're averaging somewhere between 25 to 40 a year, which is good. Right now we're at 164. And as I always say, we started with 1 in 2017. So our program is continuing to grow, which is good. Training wise, the big yellow marks obviously are COVID and stopped everything in its tracks. But we started to get back to it. As you can see in 2022, we're pretty aggressive with it. We're trying to make up what we lost during 2020 and 21. So we're hoping to have over a couple hundred trainees, new trainees in 2022. So between what we started with and what we'll have at the end of the year, you're really close to 1,000 trainees out there. So currently we have, we were able to teach 3 of the 7 courses, which is helping us build the program. Through the TA process, you only get 5 approved a year. So it's kind of tough to build a program when you only have 5 courses you can give a year. So allowing us to teach our own allows us to just pick additional dates and add in courses here and there. So it's helping us to build the program and use those 5 TAs for the other 4 ICS positions under Commute. So we currently have 12 instructors in ComL, 8 ComT, and 5 AuxCom. We are going to try in early 2023, and I keep getting asked this, to try and get some more train the trainer courses to increase our instructor pool and hopefully expand our training, maybe run multiple courses and try and run them maybe regionally. But we got to really look at that, and we got to walk before we run with this. So this is what we've completed so far this year. At the end of last year, we got all our instructors together in December at the SBTC, and one of the things we did was we went back through all the evaluations for the courses, and we pulled out all the good points and information. And one of the things was awareness. And so that's why we do this presentation quite a bit, because the awareness level is starting to come up about the communications unit, and now our classes are starting to fill up a lot quicker. There's been a lot of requests for incident tactical dispatcher. So a lot of the 911 centers want to get their folks in those courses. So what we did was we did some regional outreach to different areas. We picked 4 areas. We did the SBTC first. We went to Genesee County, we went to Broome, and we went to Clinton. And I think that we're really successful. We did this presentation. We brought OIEC equipment and vehicles, pulled stuff out. Everybody got their hands on with a lot of the equipment, and I think it was really good. We're going to do it again next year. We'll probably pick 4 different locations and try and go other areas of the state as well. So we did, these are the different courses we did, completed the first half. We just completed an INCM in June, RADO in July. And like I said, we've got an INTD coming up in roughly 2 weeks. And there's 20 student max. We have 19 right now. So there is 1 opening left, which I'm sure will be filled by the time we have it. We have an AuxCom coming up a week after that. And then we have a ComL in September. The ITSL course is in October. That's half full already. I think 20 is the number on that. We're at 10 or 11. And then we're going to do an AuxCom train the trainer, because we do want to try and increase our instructor pool to be able to teach AuxCom with more folks. And some of our people that are already instructors may be taking that course as a refresher as well. And then we'd have a ComT course in November. And then because it was such a successful 2 days, we're going to do that every year. We're going to meet with all our instructors. Everybody's going to give input. We're going to go through the evaluations, and we're going to plan what we're going to do in 2023 at that meeting. One of the things too that I keep mentioning at the presentation, Matt, yes.
We move over a little bit. Mike Volk says your audio is very choppy. It might be because of the podium mic, so slide one way or the other. I think you're just right in the bad.
You guys can all hear me. Mike Volk, can you hear Mark better? You moved a couple of feet.
You just need to start speaking again, and then I can hear. We're good.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, I had to do it. Is that better, Mike?
Tiny little bit. It's still a little bit of choppy, but it's not a problem. I can make out what you're saying.
Okay. I assume you're following along in the presentation too, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the reason I put this slide up there is most folks aren't familiar with LMS still, and I'm getting emails for courses and they're saying, how do I sign up for it? So we need to, again, raise awareness and spread the word that LMS is going to be used to register for courses. And folks need to get in there, even if they're not registering, and check out their personal data. Make sure the information's correct. I know my personal information was an address 20 years ago, and my phone number was a number that I haven't had in 15 years. So I went in and fixed it. So we all need to make sure we spread the word to get in there and fix whatever's in LMS for your profiles individually. And it's understandable. They basically merged 4 databases, training databases, into one, and it defaulted to my fire department stuff, not my full-time job stuff. So just please have people get in there and make sure if they have any issues, they can contact us and we will work with them to get them registered and their information updated. We also are working on the NICE TIC file. We talked about this with the C3 group last night, and we sent out to all the consortium chairs the updated NICE TIC FOG and asked everybody to take a look at it. We should have a final document hopefully this month. So if you haven't already, please get in and look at that. Make sure the information's correct. Send any corrections to us, and we'll forward them to Charlie Bush, who's working on it. Once that's completed, we're going to try and SIS is going to help us build an app for your phone and for your smart devices. So you'll have that and the NIFOG as a companion document for communication stuff. And we also still have 2 WebExes left this year for CHASM. So if folks want to learn more about CHASM, or if you want to get in and learn some of the new stuff, they did a refresh and there's a lot of new interesting stuff that you can do in CHASM now. Jeff Lee from SIEC ECD gets on the call with us and he'll walk us through a lot of stuff. So we have one coming up in September and November. Just send me an email and I'll send you the WebEx invite. Any questions?
Next, we'll have the Public Safety Broadband User Group report by Matthew Delaney.
Here, Matt. Sorry.
Morning, everyone. Just a couple of updates, Firstnet updates. We've got several requested for Firstnet deployables, some light trucks for summer events. These are planned events. We haven't reached them yet in the schedule this year, but I'm sure for the next meeting I can report out on that. It's a much easier process now. So when Firstnet was first launched, if you were a public safety agency and you wanted a deployable asset, either for a planned event or for an emergency, the only way to do it was on the phone. You spent 30 to 45 minutes on the phone, giving all the information about the location, the types of devices, the site conditions, and so forth. Subject, of course, obviously to transcription errors because you're on the phone. You can now do it right through the Firstnet portal, Firstnet dashboard. So it's just like a typical web form. Type in information. If you're looking at an email, you can just copy and paste it. Phone process is still available. If you're out in the field, you're on a satellite phone or something making the request, you can still do it on the phone, but certainly much easier to do it in the dashboard. Firstnet build out report for upstate New York, or for update for New York. This is data provided by AT&T. So in the Firstnet opt-in, when the state opt-in, they committed to 100 new Band 14 Firstnet funded sites. 82 of them are on the air. 7 have completed construction. 9 are still under construction, and 2 have their preferred location identified. So really moving along quite well. And I can tell you that these last few that are in the construction process are ones that were identified early, but due to permitting issues or the need to construct power and fiber to them, took a long time to do construction. And then they also committed to building 260 commercial sites across the state, and all of those are on the air. Verizon's provided an update. So this was a little different time period. This was June and July. They've added 33 small cells, 7 macro cells or full-size sites, and 4 building cells within the state. Questions on Firstnet?
Questions? Next. Oh, someone have a question? Hey, please, if you're not speaking, please remember to mute your phone. Channel name use working group. That's it doing.
Brett, do you hear me?
Yes, Jay, I hear you.
May I ask Matt a question?
Yes, you may.
Matt, with all of the sites you described, how many has the AT&T actually backed up with generator capability in the event commercial power goes down?
So all of the new sites that are built, unless prohibited by some sort of local, regulation or building code, all new sites being built are being built with a generator. Part of their commitment to New York, I didn't have it on the slide there, in terms of opt-in, was putting in, I believe it was 250 generators at sites that did not have generators, mostly in the downstate New York region. And significant number, I don't top my head, but it's like 75% of them or so have been put in now. But all new sites are built with a generator, and all new macro full scale sites are built with a generator unless prohibited.
All right, I would ask you to request Dave Cook, if he's still our Commerce Department rep, to actually do an audit on that.
Dave Cook is still the Region 2 representative from the First Responder Network Authority. So, okay.
Well, in that case, ask him to do an audit on it, not only if that the generators are present, that they are hooked up and functional. With having a generator but not hooking it up is the same as not having a generator. Thank you.
Okay. Channel Naming and Use Working Group. Just a reminder, as the Interoperable channels seem to increase use in the summer months, be sure to send the activation notifications to the Connecticut listserv. That is our standard in New York, to use the state of Connecticut Northeast Interoperability Reflector listserv. If you're not a member and you want to receive those, talk to me and we can get you signed up. We do continue to see problems with accidentally left on interrupt repeaters, including another case recently of when power was restored, default repeater enabled. So there are sites, for example, that the interoperability repeaters are not plugged into a UPS or on battery. So the site does its weekly test. Power goes out for a moment while it flips over, or the power goes out and it flips over to the generator. And then the repeater, the UTAC or the VTAC repeater, comes back on and repeat enabled. So when installing these, make sure vendors understand the right way to program them. It's in our state guidelines. Feel free always to point vendors to our guidelines webpage on on the DISH's website, and we have all those details about how they should be programmed. Obviously, we don't go into vendor specifics; it's different for each vendor. But certainly, if there's any questions from a vendor, you can always reach out, or they can reach out to us. Questions on?
Any questions for Matt on? Okay, next is Citizen Alerting Committee.
So this has been reported on a couple of times now. Last year, the New York State Broadcasters Association and DHSES and other state agencies worked on an updated state EAS plan. This is just emergency alert system, not WEA or IPAWS, but this is a requirement of the FCC, and it is managed by the New York State Broadcasters Association. The FCC required every state to submit an updated plan by July 5th of this year through their electronic portal. It was a series of sort of questions that they asked that they had to write answers to. The Broadcasters Association has submitted this. However, we expect that additional updates will be made by the Broadcasters Association with state input after the FCC review process. Basically, once it's into the FCC, it's locked until they review it, and then after they've reviewed it, you can go back and add additional clarifications or additional items. Separately, because that's sort of was answered and done to meet their process, we're updating the printed PDF plan. So that's, again, a Broadcast Association document that will come out at some point. That's more of a human readable format on the EAS system. IPAWS proficiency testing. For entities that have a COG with FEMA for submitting alerts directly into iPause, you must complete monthly testing. It's a requirement of your agreement with FEMA and your MOU. If you do not do that testing, after 3 months, FEMA suspends your ability to do alerting. At the moment, they have suspended their suspensions because of the pandemic and other issues. So you are technically out of compliance, but you can still alert. However, there are a number of those in New York that have not met their 3-month requirement and are currently in red, so to speak, for not doing that, but are still able to alert. However, you will not be able to renew your COG, which is every 3 years, if you are not current. So even though you may still be able to alert today if you're not current, that could expire when your COG expires, and then you will not be able to renew that COG until you prove your ability to do testing again. There are also a number of entities in New York that have already reached that point, either from before the pandemic and they still haven't fixed it, or they've expired during the pandemic and aren't able to alert. So we have a list. Please, if you're not sure, if you're an alerting authority and are not sure of your status, I can check for you. It is very important to test every month for 2 reasons. One, so you don't get suspended. And 2, that's how you and the people who have the alerting authority in your agency know how to send the alert, because you don't want to have to send an alert in an emergency and find that you're suspended or that nobody knows how to do it or your software doesn't work. So it's very important to comply with that monthly testing. And best practice might be, it depends how you do it, but if you say you have a center that does it, do it on different shifts. Either you can test more than once a month, but have, each shift do the test, or one month, one shift, the next month, another shift, however you want to do it. But make sure that everyone who has that authority or that ability understands how to use it. Any questions?
Echo Matt's comments enough. It's very, very important. Please double check who your person set. If you haven't heard from FEMA, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not in status of being suspended once they go back to normal operations. Some that we've seen are some of the contacts way outdated that FEMA has for yours. So think back to who set that up with FEMA. And if they're not with your agency and they've been gone for 5 years, even a year, 6 months, get hold of us or get hold direct with them and get the updates. Get your contact updated so that you can get the notifications.
We have the list of contacts too, so if you're unsure if your agency's contact are, I can tell you that too.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Matt, are you done? Okay, State Agency Committee, or State Agency Communications Working Group, that committee has not met since the last meeting, so report. PSAP SIC Chief Program Update. Phil is unable to make it today. There was just a little announcement this morning. His office, Governor Hochul did announce $100 million in grants, improved emergency communications throughout New York State. Governor's office just from this morning. So the counties are being notified with award letters. The amounts from the press release going to each county for this program. Work done by our staff, thank our staff, grants office, everyone who's worked for this, the counties for submitting all the information necessary and working with us on this. It's a combined funding and the SICG formula of a couple of years, bring us as close to up to date as possible so that we can move this program along. Down to the pandemic periods. I look forward to that. We're glad that's out. Yes, so on this program. Any questions or anything out? Okay. Very good.
or something.
Thank you, Matt. Reminding me to run the clicker if I'm gonna run it.
Too far away.
It's just a little, oh, I guess there's some slides I'm supposed to. Bill had some slides up here prepared, and this is the chart you normally see, the different grants going back. And red ones are closed. Black are still open with extensions. And for SIG formula, you can see with the year we've got 4 expiring, 18, 19, 20, and 21. They're really being reviewed stricter and stricter, folks. Got to get some project managers or something in some of these projects and get them cleared. Spend the money, get your paperwork in, get that reimbursement money out to you. I want to show that this program is utilized to its fullest extent, most of its benefit. SAP, that's annual, and it's so you normally have 1 year window for expense, and the counties do very well with that. We did this particular year have some get help extension. That right? And I know that was close. Okay. Keep a look at those dates up there. They're very important. To expiring the end of the year. Let's say the second one. 6. 6/30.
6/30 of 22.
Yeah. Right? Grant group has been working on that. Counties are, deadline was yesterday to answer some additional questions. So now for the RFA and processing that data. Decisions on that. Okay, the targeted grant goals, we did add the backhaul enhancements. Backhaul has been on there as a secondary. It's now up there. It is a primary along with the hailing channels. If it benefits multiple counties, multiple consortiums, makes the system of systems approach. It's Brian and others talked for years. So with that, slight amendment and so on to the program, but it's an official one. Systems approach, and also continuing to get the national interop channels out there and a good layer of it across the state for major incidents, for even special events or incidents, additional capacities needed. Mutual aid for those that are not in the system. It's done that, man. Both 629 so far in the program. Okay. Close. What the size of once. Okay. Sure. New batteries. I'd like to go to a communications consortium cherry and the symposium that was suggested We have a meeting, this coincides with the board meeting. So last night we had a meeting of the chairs of the communications consortiums from across the state. There's 9 different consortiums, regional consortiums for interoperations. And we have in the room 5, I believe, 5 of the chairs. They stayed over from last night, and I'd like them each to stand up and say their name and what region they're from to recognize them for their hard work in this effort. So we'll start with you, Steve.
Steve Chick, Finger Lakes.
Kevin Spraker, Central New York.
Dana Smith, Hudson Valley.
And Gosnell, Adirondack. Rosemont, New York City, representing again.
Each of these consortiums has 7 to 12 or 13 counties, I believe. 14. 14. Chair, that's chair here, Brian. Biggest consortium, but these consortiums represent parts of the state, and they work very well together over the years, building systems. Some of them share systems within their consortium. With Central New York, for example, I think all but 1 counties in Onondaga, Central New York. So, and others are working on 2 counties. So that shows you 1 project, even in the capital region, you've got working on the process of buying systems. Starting to see a lot of this come together and the benefits of these consortiums working together. New York City has been a very, very good lot. That includes Long Island, New York City, Westchester, and Rock.
Obviously, so I think we do Bergen, Essex,
Westchester, New York City on that. Okay. So, regularly. Right. So we had a meeting last night. Both sides, we can bring you a report. It's a very good meeting. Number of issues. So I would talk about the different consortiums, the reports on what's going on in their particular consortiums, any consortium-wide projects. Which were really exciting. And any challenges and so on. We talked a little bit, which I'm going to report on in a bit, about 988, which is a new suicide and mental health assistance number, effective July 16th. It's 800 number for the suicide prevention hotline now refers to that. And it can be dialed direct as 988. We'll go over a little bit of that in the meeting, but there was some thing, I guess I can talk about it now. Talked about it at length last night. And it seems to be some questions or challenges in terms of routing. That New York City picked it up, the mayor talked about it in the past week about people who have to be in the city, maybe having transported their phone number and having area code in the city, seem to be routed not to New York City 988 center. I find services or whatever the label is. Each county in the state now has, this is according to the Office of Mental Health, it's directed from the governor to lead the 988 program in New York. They said every county now has a lifeline service identified or contracted for it. Contracted service. Everywhere in the state that 988 is dialed, it should reach a counselor, should be answered. So the question is on some of the routing and so on. That's something we're going to look at. A couple of us sit on the 988 911 subcommittee. Active in it. Dana here is very active in it. Got a lot going on there in Dutchess County, that region. And so that is a concern. I'm trying to figure it out. The people getting, the biggest thing is it gets to somebody who can assist. To get it to their certain activity. At the federal level, the FCC is looking at location services, similar to what's done in 911, whether it's appropriate, feasible, or prohibitive. Do that with 988. What are the benefits? What would be would it deter someone from calling if they knew their locations would get identified? Questions like that. The SEC had a bus for comments out on every. That was one of the topics of bringing an action item on the meeting. So ask those attending the chairs here if anyone has anything to add. Speak to. Right. Thank you, and thanks for coming up to Albany and doing that. I think we're going to try to make that a practice so that we can make that a regular report. Ad hoc. We have new business. Could be any questions? New business. Thank you, Mark. I founded a engineering working group. I should have recognized Jerry Engstrom from ITS GIS program office is here. And GIS subcommittee has been very active even throughout the pandemic. They've met virtually. A dozen counties or so GIS professionals on our committee, at least, including New York City. And Jerry, I want to steal your thunder. Talk to what your group's been doing and appreciate it. Recognize it.
Sure, thank you. As of recent, New York State ITS has approved a proof of concept for the shared editing environment to build and maintain the PSAP boundary layer that would be used for Next Gen 911. It's been a long time coming, but it has been approved. It is being architected right now. We're selecting data layers to load into it. We're working with AWS, Amazon Cloud Services to implement this with open source GIS software to minimize expense and maximize the number of people that can contribute, participate. So that's being worked on literally as we speak. I think we should probably see something that we can work with, probably either later this month or maybe early September. I think the target is actually August though, so that is moving. Oh, that's moving along very well.
Now, is there going to be a type of correspondence or your office or the subcommittee, however you want to do it, to the county subcommittee?
Sure. I think that would probably encourage counties that aren't participating now to join in because it will be available to them.
Just, I mentioned earlier that wireless carriers notifying the SEC that they're providing device-based location technology. PSAP for that. They have them, most of the carriers have them for their sector routing now. They use it in that terms. So how many they can depend on that, or if they need a more detailed vetted version? Sure.
Something
I would be
else.
surprised if
Probably going to take a look at all of them and come up with some kind of a definitive layer is what's going to wind up happening. Because I think most of the carriers are probably relying on, I think they're back to being in Toronto, They were west. They were in Toronto, then they were west. Now they're in Toronto again.
Yeah, there's two. Back in, hey, when I was, there was two.
There's
one other.
Another one's
did
Comtech, I think. is
Yeah,
their
they
name.
did this. What they do though is it was a map, but it wasn't a detailed property line specific map. And then it was tabular when you actually looked at the line.
Yes.
They as an M1 coordinator, PSAP, they're given this notification of a tower that has, either any direction where it's got X number of sectors. Each sector is listed, and the 911 coordinator is responsible for putting a 911 address in the tower, so they can be in the phase one location. That's what's given to the dispatcher first answer a call, and then so you know what tower it's hitting, and then it then advises an ESN number, which needs to be set. That stuff, if they're going to go to this device base, may have to be updated because that's based on assuming the antenna is, the antenna is facing north on a state line. 100 foot into this one state, looking north, and then interstate, it's picking up stuff that routed probably to the ASAP space. I mean, when you need to change, that's the type of stuff that just has to be looked at case by case. But right now, it's tabular how it actually works. Said it's GIS based.
It's probably going to use the coordinates of the device and compare it against a map somewhere.
In those comments, I know NASA filed comments with the FCC. Basically, they're thinking, okay, if whoever administers an NG91 system, they have their ESRF routing function set up. Yes, what takes precedent? Services, decision, so on and so forth. Yeah. Well, not to confuse things with trivia. I guess the message in all that was that please, the counties and municipalities is to get your PSAP boundaries a spot where they can be provided for this program. Players. Okay.
I think that was it for now.
All right.
That was the good news.
Thank you again for you and your group's hard work moving the ball forward on this process. Right. So we have update. Yeah, we have talked about the subcommittee. I'm done. And we have to be. All right. Any other business or questions for board members? Right. Thank you. Summary. Thank you for coming. Those of you who came in person, especially. Thank you to those who were able to make it. Oh, our next board meeting is October 26th. Thank you for your. So I guess we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Sorry, Brian. Brian, the sheriff. Right? Second.
Depends on where you sit.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good day.